Oh dear, is that a lost root? No, it's okay. Hi there, this is Izzy, and I'm really excited to show you my new arrival this week. I've had a couple of new arrivals that I'm going to spread out over a couple of videos, but this one deserves a video all of its own, I think, because it's my first Phalaenopsis violacea. And I'm really excited because it's also a violacea HP Norton Indigo. So I've been really excited to get this one. Violacea is a summer blooming phal. What does that mean? Well, it means it really likes it to be a bit warmer, and it won't respond to quite the same cues as all my other Phalaenopsises. It's going to want to be warmer, it won't need a cool rest before it initiates flowering, and it's also going to flower sequentially. So when it produces a spike, it's going to keep producing flowers on that same spike. But the other thing that I'm really excited about is it's going to be fragrant. So Phalaenopsis violacea and its kind of sister species, Phalaenopsis bellina, are very famous for their fragrances, and they've been bred into lots of other specialist Phalaenopsises for those fragrances. And so I am really excited to smell this one in bloom. Now, the plant itself is looking in all right condition, but I'm wanting to repot it over to bark mix because it's in some moss, so I'll just start doing that now, and I will chat to you a bit more about violacea while I'm doing it. Phalaenopsis violacea was first found in Sumatra and the islands around there in the 1860s. 1859 is what I've got written down here. This and the bellina were classed as the same species for a really, really long time. So Phalaenopsis bellina was Phalaenopsis violacea Borneo, and at some point they decided to split them off into two. They're summer blooming phals. They do like it warmer than my other phals. So that means I'm going to be making sure that they stay a little higher in my setup. They'll want a little bit more light as well. Normally they want a bit more moisture as well, which is why this one's potted in dense sphagnum moss, but well, you know I'm not so great with that kind of thing. So I'm going to try a similar setup to my Phal Yuan Shan Sweet Girl, which is a hybrid. I'm going to try bark with a topping of sphagnum moss so that there's lots of moisture around the top to enable those roots to grow out. Now, the HP Norton Indigo is a specialist form of the Phal violacea. Gosh, there's sphagnum moss going on here. So it's particularly blue or purple in its blooms, and it's a specially line-bred Phalaenopsis. They're often used for breeding and for creating amazing new crosses, but I am going to have mine for pleasure. Right, so I've got all that moss off. This is the Phal violacea HP Norton Indigo, which has a couple of implications for how I should grow it, because people say two things. They say, one, it's very slow growing. So I'm actually really pleased to see some growing root tips on here. And the other things people say are it's very susceptible to rot and damage. I can see that in transit to the cellar before I even received it, it appears to have been a little bit damaged. I'm not worried about that. It looks dry. I think there's another one on here on another one of the leaves, but that means I've got to be quite careful about watering it. The other interesting thing about this plant, apart from the fact that it hasn't dropped any of its baby leaves, is nestled down here is what looks like a flower spike, and it's quite clearly been cut off at some point. So I wonder whether the grower has actually grown it, let it flower when very young to confirm the colour and the phenotype, and then has been able to sell it as the indigo form, because when you breed the violaceas and try and get indigo, unless you're cloning them, you might not actually get a perfect colour every time. I don't know for sure whether that's the case, but that would be my hypothesis for perhaps why there's a cut off flower spike in there. Well, that is a very lovely root system. I'm very pleased with that. On top of this quite healthy plant, which is doing very nicely. So I'll pop it in the bark and see how it goes after that. And there we go. The violacea Indigo HP Norton, nicely repotted. I'll pop the tag back in. And we'll see how this one takes to this new medium. So it was in dense sphagnum. We can see the root tips were beginning to grow again. Now I've repotted it into bark down below and some nice sphagnum moss on the top to encourage moisture to stay in the top of the pot around this plant, since it's a little more moisture loving than some of my others. So that's my first extremely exciting new arrival. It's a violacea HP Norton Indigo. It's looking in fairly good condition, some damage on the leaves, but I think when it grows up, this plant's going to be a stunner, absolute stunner. It's going to be very slow growing, so we'll just have to wait and see how it does. Thank you ever so much for watching. If you like this video, give it a like. If you'd like to see more, just subscribe to the channel. And that's it for now. Hope to see you again soon. Bye!